Viewers, I'll go back to the Personal Injury Law Show. Before the break, we're talking about the topic of underinsurance. And we're very fortunate to have Holly Dorber here from Sydney, from LifeWise. Holly, just before the break, we're talking about the cost of insurance, and it's relatively cheap.
Yep.
Now, my concern is, like health cover, if not everyone takes it out, it becomes very expensive for the ones that do take it out. Is that a fact?
It depends on the risk in the pool. So how many people are in that policy, and if everyone's paying their premiums in, this is where underwriting, which is the process of assessing your risk, is very important, that everybody in that pool of risk is paying the right premium, so that if they do claim, the amount of funds in that claim pool are not decreased too much, so that the claims can't be paid in the future.
Sarah, doesn't it stand to reason that if only 50% are covered, as opposed to, say, 90%, the cost should reduce if there's 90%?
You would think so, Tony, and that's where I think it's really important to look at the areas and why there is specific funding through certain superannuation funds for certain areas of work, such as CBUS for the building industry, Health Super, for example, for the health industry. The more people that are collective and in those sort of policies, the cheaper the premiums are generally, and the more likely you are to have the cover that you need when you need it.
Viewers, in a lot of instances where there's group coverage, there's people given a questionnaire where they've got to tick a box, Holly, and I'm going to come to you on this, and the box says, do you want total and permanent disability cover? And it's probably $1 a week. I've seen a lot of cases where people don't tick the box, they don't want the coverage. What are the figures for that?
I think the issue with that is that we have to make sure as an industry we're making people more aware and educating and providing information so they understand the value of the products that are available to them. Because if you do become injured and unable to work, it's too late at that point. You can't take that cover out. And through superannuation, like I said, is a perfect opportunity for people to take out cover that they need in the most affordable way and ensure that if the worst were to happen to them, they are protected. So it's about informing and educating superannuation fund members about the importance of the cover that is offered. Yeah.
What are the different types of cover people should be looking for, Sarah?
There's a few different types that people can take out. The first one is a lump sum for total and permanent disability, and that also covers sickness as well. Income protection, which is a weekly or a fortnightly payment that basically is up to a certain percentage of your pre-injury wage.
Usually about 80%.
Yeah, usually about 80 to 85%. And then you've also got your trauma benefits, which are larger lump sums, and you are entitled to those if you suffer a specific injury. It's a tabled list of injuries. So there's quite a few that people can look at taking out.
And Holly, in terms of taking out insurance on yourself, it's very, very cheap when you're younger.
Yeah, we would say have a look at your risks when you're healthy and when you're fit, because that's when you're going to get the most affordable rates. And once you've been underwritten for a particular amount of insurance, an insurance company cannot underwrite your risk again. So that health profile that you've disclosed at the particular point of taking out the cover will stay with you as long as you keep paying those premiums. You'll be covered for those particular conditions.
The other, just on this issue of risk, and age seems to play a big part in this. If you're 50, I've noticed that the premium goes up significantly, Sarah. Have you experienced that in your line of work?
I have, Tony. It does seem that the older that people get, the more difficult it is to actually get the right amount of cover, which is why it's so important that as soon as you're in the working industry, you're looking at what your assets are, what your wage is, and then what amount you need to actually cover you from then going forward.
Just one of the things that affects people is pre-existing conditions, Holly. What are some of the things that could affect your coverage for insurance, income protection, TPD cover? I raised the issue of depression at the start of the show.
Yep. It's really important when you're applying for insurance that you understand you have a legal obligation to disclose everything you know about your health. And this would include pre-existing conditions that you're aware of, so that the insurer can appropriately assess the risk that you are and ensure that you're paying the correct premium relevant to your risk. And that includes pre-existing conditions, and in some cases it may be that you can still obtain cover but you won't be covered for that existing condition. So if you are already suffering from a mental illness, it may be that you are unable to obtain cover for that illness, or that you may have a premium loading, so your premium might be more. But you can still get cover. Yeah, and you can still get cover for everything else.
Sarah, just on that, pre-existing conditions, I want to just say to the viewers, be very careful because you think you can hide it. But these days, the insurers are entitled to ask for your records, aren't they?
They do, Tony. In a lot of instances, if you have a pre-existing condition or you're at a certain age, it might be, in an area that may make you more prone to certain injuries, such as back injuries, they can, in some instances, obtain clinical records. This is more important to once you've had a claim and you haven't disclosed something that you've previously had, and you find that after all those years of paying the premiums, you're actually not covered because you didn't disclose it.
And the Insurance Contracts Act becomes a big problem too, because an insurer can avoid a policy if you fail to disclose relevant information.
Yeah, if you don't disclose everything that you know about your health and your medical history to an insurer, it may be that they will decline a claim in the event that you haven't disclosed all relevant information.
There's been a lot of cases, Sarah, where someone's had a pre-existing condition. Let's say it's a back, and then the thing that knocks them out of work becomes a back. Now, if they've disclosed a back injury, where most people in the workforce do have some sort of a back problem during their life, chances are they wouldn't be precluded from claiming. Is that a fact?
As long as they've disclosed the injury, generally the insurer can then determine whether or not they're going to insure for that injury. If they decide that yes, we're going to insure, for example, they might just put a preclusion period in place. So if it's an income protection claim, for example, the waiting period may be usually 30 to 90 days. They might make it 3 to 6 months instead because of that pre-existing condition, or they may make you pay an extra loading on the premium to actually cover you for that instance. Or if you've got a certain level of cover, it may be reduced to a smaller amount if you have that particular claim.
What are some examples, Holly, of pre-existing conditions that have meant that insurers have avoided claims? Diabetes, failing to disclose diabetes?
Failing to disclose diabetes, failing to disclose a knee injury that you might have had when you were younger and playing football. It can depend. It really just, I can't stress enough the importance of disclosing everything you know to the insurer, and that doesn't mean you won't get cover. It's better to disclose than non-disclose and not get claimed.
We're not talking about taking your tonsils out, are we?
No.
And is the appendix relevant, for example?
I wouldn't have thought so, Tony, because it's a relatively minor procedure.
And the insurer will look at all those risks and they'll price it, and it's really important that you understand what your policy covers and what it doesn't cover.
Viewers, we're going to go to talk about genetic testing after the break. So we've got to go to a sponsors break. Stay tuned, we'll be back shortly.